Wait for the cold open, David. David loves to tell great stories before you hit record in StreamYard. So it's like podcast adjacent, but not exactly on the podcast. It's like an inside joke for those of us that get the text message, but everybody else is like, what are you referring to? Anyway, I want to know why David's so cranky.
Well, here's the funny thing is like either you knew. I mean, I don't remember when I told you I was going to the dentist, but yeah, that's where I was like less than 2 hours before now.
Oh,
where I sat in a dental chair for like 3 hours.
Hey, Dave, you mentioned the name of 3 comic books featuring the hero from tonight's movie, but what are those comic books about? And you go, I don't got time for this. It's going to be a rough day, and then my ass is going to be at the dentist. I'm like, shit, dude. like, it's like the sandbox, and I just like flick sand on his shovel, and he's like, hey, dig over there.
Honestly, if you had called, if it was a telephone conversation, it might have been more dramatic because I also got like very little sleep because I was at a cast party till like 1 a.m., which is like way past my bedtime these days. So, and then I woke up at 6:30.
Superstar David, he doesn't have time for us. That's what it is. So that's why Dave's cranky. He had to sit in a dentist chair.
On very little sleep. Oh, that's the worst.
And get sunburned by the bright lights in the dentist chair.
You know, it sucks because, like, okay, my dentist does give me the laughing gas for free, which is lovely. And apparently I've built a tolerance.
What a perk.
So they put it full blast.
You want some free nitrous with your fillings or root canal?
Oh, it's nice.
Heck yeah.
Get the leg tingles. But no, and I could only hear like little phrases here and there, like decay. Oh, we got to hurry this up. Like stuff you don't want to hear when you're in a dental chair. Like, oh man,
he's like
all the alarming stuff.
Yeah.
The last part, your insurance isn't going to cover that, so we're just going to whack your credit card an additional $500. What? Well, it sounds like you're laughing along, so you agree, correct? Your uproarious laughter suggests that you're in league with what we're saying.
Laugh is consent. Ugh.
Whoa, I got to write that down. I don't remember that. That's a bumper sticker right there.
There you go.
Laughter is consent.
Oh gosh.
And
at the dentist.
Oh yeah. David at the dentist.
Dentist Dave.
Actually, that probably works in the comedy world too. Like if comedians are getting in trouble, like some Me Too trouble, they're like, "But I thought laughter was consent."
Hashtag laughter is consent.
Oh,
T-shirt or bumper sticker.
Oh man.
Let's see. I'm talking about myself in the third person. Why does John feel like Gil from The Simpsons? Do you guys know who Gil? Do you guys remember Gil?
Yeah.
You know this? Okay, so Gil is
he's a
pathetic salesman from The Simpsons from like season 5 to 25. I don't know how often Gil is featured, but frequently featured in The Simpsons. So he's basically a guy that like is having a run of bad luck as a salesman, but it never ends. So like, you know, like in the salesman world, in the salesman's game, like you could be up and so you're really excited, and then like so the highs are really high and the downs are really down, right?
Yeah.
Like
yes.
So
I would know.
Yeah, and Jordan and me, we have day jobs where it's kind of like that. It's like you could be having a great week that makes your whole month, or you could have like a series of misfortunes that like have your month is gonna suck. But the reason I felt like Gil is like I got roped into the back to school shopping. I have 2 kids. Yeah, they got to get stuff for back to school. Wasn't ready for it. I was like 2 weeks out from being ready for it. It happened anyway. And then they went on a trip. And so I'm thinking like, so now I have to go to the office more often and have more like how many more phone calls or emails do I have to make to try to make up for what got spent on back to school shopping and a trip that they just took like out of state. And I'm like, a trip that went on the credit card. And I'm like, yeah, I texted Dave. I was like, Dave, like, I didn't say it was like an out-of-body experience, but I think I just said, I feel like Gil from The Simpsons. I think. Yeah. I said something like that. Yeah. And I'm like...
And that was like I knew exactly what character, exactly who you meant.
Yeah. But the character's like... Yeah. I'm not suicidal, but the character is like the most pathetic salesman creature that like ever walked the face of the earth, you know?
Well, it keeps getting darker as like the seasons went on. Where like...
Yeah, they made it worse every time. But like...
But it started off.
You got to feed that machine. It's pretty much an American machine thing. It's a very American idea. Like, does your family love you because you're bringing home the bacon? Like, it's basically it questions the faith. Like, do they love you if you don't have any bacon, or do they only love you because you have the bacon? Listeners can decide. We don't have to decide. They can decide on their own.
So sad.
So many guilds just strangle themselves with their ties, and this is the last episode they're ever going to hear because it's over. they just fucking gave up. They threw the towel. Gosh, I should have just made the guild joke and walked away. But see, like I could just like keep the mic running and just like, oh, and then Jordan has a new beau.
I do.
Oh.
I have a new man.
And it's like it's social media. It's like Instagram official, y'all.
Yeah,
like
I guess that's the only way to make anything official these days, isn't it?
Maybe. But then anybody out there who's like looking for her, you're gonna have to get off the dating apps. She's done. She's off the market.
Yeah. Well, I was telling John that was not by choice. That I realized after trying to get back onto Tinder that I was kicked off for good, based off of violating community guidelines. I don't know what I did, but I just think it was maybe a very upset young man who maybe have blocked me forever and ever. I'm a heartbreaker. What can I say? So that's the story.
I don't know. It kind of makes you sound badass. Like, whoa, man, she's too much for Tinder.
She's got much clout. Yeah, she's got so much clout. Like, yeah, and so much charisma. They're like, oh, we got to get rid of this girl. It's just too hot. It's making phones explode.
Oh, goodness.
You're off the app.
Yep, been kicked off Tinder for forever and ever. So,
or they're like, they found out you were building a sex room in your apartment because of that Netflix show, and they're like, we can't.
It was probably that.
Can't have that on Tinder.
It was probably that. How to build your only room a sex room. I think that's the TV show because I live in a studio. Just kidding.
Or not. We don't really know. We haven't measured her apartment.
Give you guys
it gave me a really good idea. Like you could run your whole operation there. You could theoretically build a sex room. You could have Tinder dates, and you could start an OnlyFans channel, and you could operate your business right out of your apartment, unless there was like a condo agreement, and they said, oh, you can't operate businesses out of your apartment. Like, well, what do I take down? Do I take down the OnlyFans cameras, or do I remove the sex room? Like, what are you really asking me here?
I think that's not the weirdest thing that's happening at my complex. So just throwing that out there. I'm sure I'm the least of their problems.
That's an interesting. My imagination's kind of running wild. Now I'm thinking, like, could you imagine living in a world where sex is like the normal thing, but everything else is a problem? That's France. Sorry, that's a different country.
Yeah.
Moving on, home video headlines. Or what I should just call...
Here's an interesting transition.
Yeah, exactly. The dead transition. I don't know if I should call it headlines or celebrity death overload. And it's literally the death report. Frowny face, because everybody's dead. No, just kidding. Like, I guess because all the 80s actors getting on in the years, I think like next year, the 80s are almost like 50 years ago, which is... That's crazy.
No, 40. Yeah.
40 years?
40,
whatever.
yeah.
It's a long time ago. Podcasters don't do math. All right. Let's see. So maybe it's just their time to move on. I don't know. Roger Mosley from Magnum PI. He was also Coach Ricketts in Hanging with Mr. Cooper. That was a fun show.
Oh, yeah.
But he was TC in Magnum PI. He was like the main, like one of the main dudes, sidekicks or whatever that helped the original Magnum PI. He passed away in a car accident, which is crazy because it seems like celebrities are getting in car accidents left and right. Like last week, we were talking about another one. Mm-hmm. Olivia Newton-John. She's singing in another dimension now. Oh. The Grease star has passed on. You know what, though? What I think about her is, like, it's not so tragic because she's made so much music, and her movie Grease is, like, one of the most famous movies of all time. She's immortal. Like, you know what I mean? Her work is going to be here forever. I didn't think that John Travolta was going to outlive her, though. I thought he would kick the bucket before she did. I mean, so far, he's outlived her, his on-screen love affair, and he's outlived his wife, which blows my mind. Maybe it's that Scientology blood. Maybe there's something to that. And Clu, I don't want to butcher his name. I know his son, but try not to butcher the name. Clu Gulager. It sounds like Gallagher, but it's spelled differently. But it's yeah. Gulager, yeah. Anyway, he played Bert from Return of the Living Dead. He played Billy the Kid in an old western called The Tall Man. He was in The Last Picture Show. Again, another iconic movie. He goes all the way back to like an old western show called The Virginian. But I mean, I would say everybody our age probably knows him from Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, or maybe the Feast movies, or at least the first one.
But you were talking about 40 years. I mean, he had like a 45-year career or something like that. He lived into his 90s, but he's also gone. So that's like, 3 big stars. They're out the door to another pasture. I don't know. This is why like home video headlines are kind of like a blessing and a curse. It's like, oh, I want to talk about all the cool, exciting new movies and TV that are coming out. But if just for the basics of reporting stuff going on in the industry, it's like, oh, here's some famous people that have died. And then I look at my Instagram and go like, every other picture for like the last 4 months has been a dead celebrity. I'm like, my Instagram structure and trend, like, it's gonna like, how like, well, Dave, you're not on Instagram a lot, but if you're on Instagram a lot, it starts to show you the accounts it thinks you like based on what you're posting and what you're looking at. So I'm like, oh, so pretty soon I'm just gonna get inundated with all the hashtag RIPs for all the dead celebrities. You know what I mean? Like, and my Instagram is turning into a morgue. Now my reels are on fire. Reels.
Maybe we're just having like one of those dead celebrity years. Like, do you remember? I think it was like 2009 when like we just lost a shit ton of celebrities like in succession, like Michael Jackson, from Charlie's Angels, Farrah Fawcett. Like there was like something like a ton of celebrities died within a small span of time. So like I wonder if we're just hitting one of those peaks. That might explain.
I don't know. You ever think about life triggers, though? Do you ever think that you could have done something that is basically what sets you up for your own death? Like, it's a decision you make, and it's like just like a domino effect to like, you know what it is? Like that extra one at last call, David. You know what I'm saying? That ninth beer from
goodness.
Like a barbecue 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh,
like if
that's
only I didn't kill that spider versus setting it free, this would have solved everything.
Yeah, it was the lucky spider. It was like, it was a magic spider, and you're like, oh, I killed it instead of like asking it for 3 wishes. That's what you did.
Goodness.
I don't know. The energy feels weird. See what I'm talking? See what happens? You talk about dead celebrities, and it changes the whole atmosphere of the whole show.
I was thinking about the magic spider, actually.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder that, Jordan? You ever come across a certain animal and you're just like, maybe I shouldn't have killed that fish.
If I don't do this, or if I do this, it could alter my life forever. Yeah, like all the time.
Steve, one of my constant worries in life.
Of spiders?
Of just making the wrong decision and sending me down the bad path. Or, the multiverse, which is so popular right now, like maybe...
Oh, yeah, there's a version of Dave that didn't get out of the dentist's office.
Oh, my goodness. It's so scary.
As long as they left the laughing gas on.
Well, and Facebook is doing this because the ancient aliens thing, right? So now I'm getting like all the UFO stories on Facebook, like
yes,
So I saw one today that was like time travel is real, but only to parallel universes. I'm like, oh, fucking here we go. Now I'm gonna get all the ancient alien documents and websites, everything on my Facebook, and now I'm talking to in a microphone. Google's listening on the computer. The phone's listening right next to the microphone. This is gonna be great.
Is that like maybe that's like the next? Maybe you can make a side podcast of just like tearing down or proven paranormal stories. I don't know.
Ooh, just reminded me of a new Netflix documentary that I did not watch yet, but I'm excited to put it on my list.
It's
called Sasquatch.
Oh, wait, is this about the guy that gets in, like, crosses paths with, like, a drug operation? And
I think something like that. Like, they're investigating, like, 3 homicides that were, like, thought to have been made by Sasquatch.
The cover-up is they make it look like a wildlife death or something.
Yeah, Sasquatch had killed these people, but then they, like,
but it was really like a mushroom cartel or something that, like, regular people had gone to the wrong place in the woods and found the drug operation or something like that. And then so the cover-up is, accidental death by Sasquatch or death by wildlife, a bear, cougar or something.
Yeah.
Didn't they already do a Hulu documentary? I swear I saw one.
I think it's the same, or it's talking about the same incident.
Well, I don't know. Like Netflix seems to be like stealing other people's homework because they just gave their own Woodstock '99 documentary when HBO Max did one a year ago.
Huh. Interesting.
So, I don't know. Like I was just wondering,
David, what's HBO Max? I've never heard of this. It's
we still have it for now. Enjoy it.
No, it's about to be like wiped off the face of the earth.
Well, we already know. Well, we already knew that it was going to merge with Discovery Plus. So, I mean, as long as they keep some at least the HBO content at the very least.
They have to. I will riot. Just saying.
Like, come on now, don't do that. Actually, I mean, I've read some creators have come forward, like James Gunn, saying like, no, Peacemaker is safe. Like, isn't that sad that we have to people have to step forward to say that?
Well, the new Evil Dead director was jumping on Twitter going, "Don't worry, Evil Dead Rise, have faith." And I'm like,
right, yeah,
that horror movie's probably out the window too. I don't even think talking about tonight's movie could really elevate the episode, because it's kind of a really.
I mean, yeah, I guess it is.
This one's a little dark, gritty, ultra-violent.
Ultra-violent is right.
Yeah. Tonight's movie is Dredd from 2012. Karl Urban is the law. He plays Dredd, who's the judge, jury, and executioner in a lawless apocalypse, or just America in 60 years. And David has some facts about this movie. I think he likes this version more than he likes the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd that came out before it.
Yeah, you don't even have to question that. That's just straight.
Yeah.
That's not a fact.
I can just tell by reading your facts. I'm at the point where I'm going to be like, don't share your sheets with me anymore, because I get pissed off every time I read them. Just like,
hide the.
Well, like, okay, now you criticize me for like movies I don't like.
Just surprise me on the show, because I don't want to have to prepare a counterpoint, or like, I'd rather not know. I should just go in blind, like Jordan, just safely, just ignorant, just like.
I love the
just deal with it as it comes. It's pure bliss. I should just like, yeah, because sometimes he sends me his list and I'm like, what the hell, David? And it's always true. I can always tell when there's a movie mentioned you don't like. Like, he mentions the other Judge Dredd movie that Sly Stallone made, and all he says is, "It was a commercial failure." Not that it has thousands of fans that have watched it, for the last 10 years or whatever.
Or what we need to do is, after Dave gives you the details or the facts, you should message me what you think his prediction is.
Oh, that's good.
And then I'll reveal the Dave prediction after Dave says how he feels, because I'll know the answer.
I'll just text you 911, Jordan. He hates this movie.
Yes. And I'll know, and then we can reveal what your prediction was about Dave's rating after Dave reads it.
That's good.
Oh man, is that like going to be or not a contest, but like a bet between you guys? Have some skin in the game.
I think it will be interesting.
I'm on board.
All right.
Take it away, Dave, with the facts.
So Judge Dredd is actually a long-running comic book in the 2080 comics series, which I think is a British comic book series. Popular storylines that I did not get to find the storylines to are the Robot Wars, The Day Law Died, and Judge's Death. I'm told those are very popular.
Okay,
runs.
Hold your horse cart there, horse racer. All right. Robot Wars, the first major arc for Judge Dredd. The Day the Law Died is he gets exiled outside of the safe walls of the city because he gets framed for murder, which was kind of in the other movie. Judge Dredd is a dark judge from another dimension that considers all life crime. So basically, a bunch of undead judges go around and try to kill everyone. So,
all right.
You know how I found that, David?
Facts.
That was a Google search. What is this book about? Click. What is this one about? Click. Took all about 10 seconds, brah.
Well, cool. You had those 10 seconds that I apparently did not, because I was stuck in a fucking dentist chair.
Just remember, laughter is consent.
As John wanted me to point out, this is the second film adaptation of the comic, with 1995's Judge Dredd being the first with Sylvester Stallone. And yes, it was a critical and commercial failure. John says there's a fan base. I believe him. I am not. I know a lot of people hate it. I'm included. But that's not this Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd. Go ahead.
Producing Judge Dredd movies and having a comic book like 2000 AD leads to Watchmen, leads to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It opens a lot of other doors to get these other movies made.
Fair enough. Star Karl Urban is probably most known right now as the Butcher on the Boys. He was Aramar in Lord of the Rings, or was the Bones in the recent Star Trek movies. He was such a big fan of the comics that he was insistent that he never remove his helmet on screen, just like in the comics. So they paid for basically half his face, but he was insistent. He wanted to be true to the comic book.
Well, look at Mandalorian. Did we not see his face for like the whole, most of the first season?
Pretty much. But all we saw was chin and, mouth. Chin and mouth. A little bit of bottom nose. Multiple sources, actually, including Karl Urban, state that writer Alex Garland was the actual director of the movie. If this is true, that would mean that it was his directorial debut ahead of Ex Machina. It's never been solidly confirmed, but basically a lot of stories have pointed that he was the real director. And fans have taken up campaigning for years to get a sequel to this movie made, is going as far as creating Days of Dread, where they get fans to buy or rent the movie or watch it just to show that there's an interest. Karl Urban has stated multiple times he would do a sequel and he is interested. So I'd actually like to see that. Because although I guess I kind of played my cards there, so, it's easy to guess what I'm going to think of the movie.
You broke up there, Dave. What do you say?
Oh, I just said my last comment about being, I'd like to see a sequel, I guess, is playing my cards too heavily about where I fall in the movie. If you're going to guess what I thought of it or what I'm going to rate it. All right.
Who's got a serious
weird energy show tonight?
Oh, man. You know what? Okay, so this Dredd, Karl Urban is the better actor for Judge Dredd. However, Stallone built a better world for Judge Dredd with his movie. Like, the comic books and all the stuff that Judge Dredd does is all built around the movie that you said was a failure. The world is there. But the second Judge Dredd, which clearly suffered from like budgetary issues, it's clearly an independent movie. The characterization and the quality of the actor, like, there's certain things Sly Stallone. So this is really hard for me to choose because I like Sly and I like Karl, but between the two, like, I would vote Karl to do Judge Dredd. You know what I'm saying? But the other movie is very entertaining and included characters from the comic books, like the villains and the idea about Judge Dredd's brother, which you won't learn in this new, the one we watched tonight, folks. You won't know anything about the brother, and you won't know that the reason Dredd is such a badass is because he's basically like engineered to be such. Like there's only one tiny hint, and it's a blink and you miss it in this movie when his psychic partner is digging through his mind a little bit when they're doing the test. I guess I got to explain what happens in this movie. So at the beginning of the movie, Judge Dredd is supposed to take on a new partner. She failed her written exam, but she's got to go out in her field test, and they pick him to do it, but she has a special skill. The cops are like, oh, we should maybe have her as a cadet because she has psychic powers. And so they have her read Judge Dredd through the glass mirror in the interrogation room. And she hints at something, but besides she's talking about like his code of ethics, and then he has a layer of anger and something deeper than anger. And then the main judge, who I think is called like the Judge Supreme, is that right? I forget the title.
I don't know if they mentioned it in the movie.
They mentioned it in the first movie, but it was played by Max von Sydow. Is that who's in the other movie?
I haven't seen it in years.
So, but essentially, and I think it's the comic book origin story. It's in the movie. I think they're aligned. Is that basically he's genetically engineered to be the best judge that ever existed, and he has an evil brother who's like a clone, right? And that's all explored in the first movie, but they barely hint that there's something else going on with Dredd in this movie, right? During that scene. Anyway, I think people should watch both movies. Now, I'm kind of dancing around our favorite bits, but before we get to our favorite bits, we're going to go to a couple messages. The first one is about our new podcast. So the veteran Star Trek podcasters, Brent Allen and Jeff Aiken. Jeff is the one who we featured a Star Trek podcast a few weeks ago. Jeff has a new podcast with his buddy Brent. They're going to be watching Babylon 5 for the first time. They're going to be looking for Star Trek-like messages in this series and deciding whether or not they should have watched it much sooner because they haven't seen Babylon 5 before. So we're going to go ahead and give our audience a little preview of their trailer, and they can tell us what they think about Jeff's Babylon 5 podcast.
Hey, Brent, have you ever seen Babylon 5 before?
Babylon 5? Mean that show from the 90s?
Yep.
No.
You want to watch it for the first time?
Let's do it.
Babylon 5 for the first time, not a Star Trek podcast.
We are two veteran Star Trek podcasters watching Babylon 5 for the first time. We're searching for Star Trek-like messages in the series and deciding if we should have watched it sooner.
You can find us on Good Pods, YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Babylon 5 for the first time, not a Star Trek podcast.
What do you think, Dave? You can tune in?
Maybe I'll pick up along with them and watch Babylon 5 as well, which I have also never seen.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to say you were going to tune in because I know that you're not really a Trek fan.
No, but my wife has slowly like introduced me to stuff. Like she's more of not more of, she is.
You can finish your story, then I'll tell people what
Goldbelly.
why I'm showing a picture of crab cakes that look delicious.
No, my wife is a Trekkie, so I'm slowly getting more into Star Trek. That's all.
The other thing I want to tell you about, folks, is from our affiliate partner over there at Goldbelly. You can order food on demand, and they're bringing you Jerry's Seafood, which ships from their crab bombs. They ship nationwide on Goldbelly. The crab bomb is a 10-ounce, fresh, hand-picked, all jumbo lumped crab meat, perfectly seasoned with Old Bay, held together with a touch of mayo. Absolutely no filler. It's the firecracker version, is seasoned with black pepper, dry mustard for a sensational bite. For limited time only, they're doing a BOGO. Buy 2, get 2 free. Buy 4, get 4 free. It's their famous crab bomb. Dave, the last time we ran Goldbelly, did you buy anything? Years ago when we were doing like pizza on demand. Jordan, do you know about this company? Like they do like on-demand food subs.
No, but looks so good.
Yeah, you can get these awesome crab cakes, which are called crab bombs. They look really good and really intense. I haven't ordered these, but I ordered their Detroit-style pizza from a place in Detroit. It's really funny. They just ship people's food across the country.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think there was as unavailable in my area at the time, but those look so good though. I want to try those.
Yeah, there's probably a disclaimer somewhere on their website, but anyway, back to the show. Favorite bits.
The bits. Okay. It's my turn. I had a lot
Hold on,
of
can I interrupt you? Do you know why it
Yeah.
feels so weird tonight? We didn't play the theme song, or I didn't. I failed to play the theme song.
Oh, it threw everything off.
It fucked everything over, except for the
fucked the
consent
aura.
part. Yeah. I could play it now and interrupt the bits, but fuck it.
Could have been the NyQuil that I took like 20 minutes before the show, but
Could have been painkillers I took before the show.
yes.
It's just been
Actually, if I fuck up on the theme song, the audio version, I can add it in. I have a little tool to click it on the beginning of the track, the MP3 track. But the video version, I was reading something about like, YouTubers don't even give a shit if your show has an intro because the video is autoplay on YouTube anyway. So it's like you're joining somebody's conversation anyway. I don't know.
It's a little podcast host cocktail tonight with all of us.
Yeah, sorry. Side story. Back to favorite bits. Sorry to interrupt, Jordan.
I loved a lot. The gore was like one of them. If you are looking for a gory movie, this is it. It goes into detail with some of the fight scenes and people getting blasted in the cheek with bullets and stuff. It did kind of remind me a little bit like the way it was filmed of what was the one with Keira Knightley where she's a bounty hunter?
Domino.
The way it was like filmed with like all the drug scenes when they do the slow-mo, which is like the manufactured drug of Mama's, gang. So it kind of gave me a little bit of that vibe, but I did like the dream scene where Anderson, who's Dredd's, rookie officer, I guess you want to call him, she goes into the mind of like Mama's minion, and I love that like he kind of figures out since it's his mind he can take control, and they kind of go back on and forth of like who has control over the dream. Since she has psychic abilities, she can do that. But I also love Lena Headey in anything. Like she is the best female villain possible. We all know her as Cersei Lannister in Game of Thrones. She's just the woman that you love to hate but hate to love, and so I thought she did a good job as Mama, the drug lord. for this block. Those are some of my bits.
Yeah, it's kind of an accident. Judge Dredd is chasing some perps that are high, and then he ends up going to the drug distribution center, which is inside of a apartment complex called Peachtree.
Mhm.
But because it's the future, the apartments have these like lockdown security features. So Mama hacks into the system with her little hacker, and then because she's got like a whole crew, right? As you said,
well,
like
the
a little
entire
gang.
apartment building
And then
has
they-
her gang in it.
Yeah, so they lock down the whole apartment, and then like Judge Dredd and his partner are like stuck there. But Jordan's right. Like Lena Headey makes the part. Like without Karl Urban and her playing off each other, wouldn't be the same. So she definitely brings it. You know,
She does. What about you, Dave? Your favorite bits?
Oh man, there's a lot I like about this movie. I hadn't watched it in a few years, and it's after this watch is slowly becoming a favorite movie. Actually, because I just like the style. Like I know, like John said that this is low budget, and technically true. It did have about half the budget of the first movie, but that's why I think it was so smart that because they didn't have that budget, they told kind of a contained movie. Like they didn't go like have 20 sets or whatever. It was just that basically that apartment complex for the most part. So they managed their budget really well, and I think that's kind of what I like about the story. It's not a big sprawling story. It's just it's very simple. You can follow it along, but they also take chances, like with the slow-mo drug, where people puff it through an inhaler, and then it slows down to like 1 second per
1% of time of real
1%
time.
of time. Yeah, exactly. And I just thought those scenes were really like just beautiful. They were like almost artful on their own in this weird, crazy, drugged out, violent movie. Even in some of those scenes, like somebody's getting their face shot off, and you like see their cheek just go everywhere, go flying. I mean, it has violence that is very beautifully done in a weird way. So yeah, I don't know, John, your favorite bits.
I like the way Mama goes out. I like how he passes his final judgment on Mama.
Full circle.
Spoiler alert, basically she ODs or is forced to OD. And then as Dave said, it's kind of beautiful. It's like beautiful chaos at the end of the movie. Although rewatching it now, like so many years later from having watched it and thinking about like all that's going on in the real world, I was just thinking like, it's hard to endorse some of the shit in the movie, like because
in the wrong hands, this movie could be, I don't know. I won't go there, but you can take the wrong message from this movie if you're looking at it the wrong way, is all I'll say.
Well, the guy that Jordan described as like her minion, like her lieutenant guy, who the psychic like has the head game with and stuff like that, and that's like a cool subplot. I thought he was gonna turn sides and become their ally because they drag him through the whole movie. But there's actually like an intense conversation between him and Dredd, and like out of context, you know what I mean? Like you could make an argument about like, oh, what is this movie doing?
Right.
Anyway.
It just dawned on me, this almost has the same ending as the first RoboCop. Like just, all right, take out the bad guy, credits.
Well, I like this idea. I think it's a Roger Corman idea. He may have said it, or maybe I may be misquoting the wrong producer, but maybe it was it Val Lewton? Man, somebody in like during the 50s and 60s monster craze said when the perfect time to end the movie is right after the monster's dead. It's like, or as soon as the heroes kill the monster, the movie should be over. I'm like, oh, that's a really good editing rule. Like these movies, like you mentioned Lord of the Rings, that, Karl Urban was in Lord of the Rings. It's like, but that movie goes on an hour after they've had victory.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, it's a good rule. It's a good hard and fast rule. You kill the bad guy, it's over with. I do like they bring in the corrupt judges and he has to take them out. So their accessories are really cool. Not that I'm not promoting violence. I'm just saying, like, if you have a gun and it only works for you, but it has like all these different settings and can use these crazy, like it's like a smart gun, right? Do I agree with Dredd's methods? No, but again, it's like
much.
If you point the lens at society, it's just like, well, this is kind of how cops are. So if you were telling a story about a cop, you kind of have to like have some kind of basis and fundamentals, And then the scary thing is like the other idea, like should that one person be like the deciding factor? Because he at one point he's like she disagrees with him at some point, right?
Yeah.
The rookie's like, do we really gotta do that? And he's just like, he basically just says, I'm tired and fuck it. you know what I mean? Like he's like, we just got shot I'm full of bullets. Let's just do it the Dredd way. You know?
Right. I mean, I will give him this, unlike, other cops in movies. I mean, he has to be 100% because what is it at some point? Like, well, I think I'm 99% sure he's guilty. That's not good enough. I'll give him credit for that. He needs to be absolutely sure you're guilty before he's going to take judgment. So, he's better than some movie cops in that regard, I guess.
When I watched it the first time, I was concerned for him, though, when he gets shot.
Yeah.
I thought, like, oh, wow, they actually made the decision to kill off the main character. That's a bold move. There won't be a Dredd 3. You know what I mean? I was like, this is it. So,
well, and that was also a pretty cool scene, too. It was like him having to, dress his field wound with the, very futuristic,
Oh, that's like the King Kong moment. That's like the moment where, like, oh, accept this guy for who he is. This is what makes him Judge Dredd. Like, this is the moment right here where he's like, I have my own set of rules. I don't give up easily. This is my, like, ideology. This is, like, everything to me. And, like, yeah. I mean, that's, like, hard shit right there. And, we're just watching movies. But then you wonder, like, could I field dress a couple bullet holes and staple myself back together so I could clock out at the end of the day and go home? I don't know. It's a good question. Not going to put it to the test, but...
Although the only thing I wondered about that, and I can do like movie logic, like somebody it was taken care of, but I'm like, okay, you got the front hole, but what about the back hole? Didn't it go fully through you? You still have another wound back there, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See that if it was a comedy, the other partner who you haven't seen this whole time, there's a third partner. That's when he would chime in and be like, Dredd, shouldn't we staple your back together as well? Shut up, Steve. You know what I mean? Like Judge Steve, he's just there he's like a ride along.
What's funny, you said right along, and this movie felt a lot like a weird version of like Judge Dredd, Training Day.
Training Day, yeah. That's why I said the King Kong line. I was like, this is basically Training Day with a futuristic gun. you know what I mean? And a helmet. All right. It's time for ratings.
Ratings. Okay. It was a bunch now for me. I liked it. I've been really into some sci-fi lately, and this did it for me. So what about you, Dave?
Definitely binge now for me. Like I said, I'd seen this before, and when John mentioned it, I was like, oh yay, because I remember liking this movie, and I liked it so much better this time. It gets better each time you watch it. John?
It was a binge now, it became a binge later.
All right. But I guess overall binge now, on the numbers.
Yeah, it's gonna, obviously 2-1, right?
Yeah.
Jordan mentioned a staff pick that she's gearing up for.
Yeah.
Hasn't watched it yet, but she's getting ready for it.
I did watch a little bit of the new season of Westworld too. Like I said, I've been into sci-fi lately, so.
Oh, it's. I'm like 2 episodes behind, but what do you think? How do you feel about this season so far?
I feel like since season 3, I just have no clue what's going on. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. It's fun. I've been hearing about a mass exodus of like fans just being like, yeah, I'm done.
The first season was just the best. Second season I liked, but I'm like now 3rd and 4th. I'm like, I don't really know what's going on, but
I mean, I'm still kind of invested, but I agree with you. There are parts that are hard to follow. Like, wait, what's this now? Or what's this about?
Right.
Or, yeah.
And it's like the concept I understand, but a lot of like the actual dialogue that's going on between the characters and like where the story's gonna go. I'm like, I don't know. I guess I have more fun learning about how they filmed it than I do like actually watching the episode. So
you just watch the 5-minute behind the scenes after the show.
Yep. I'm here for the BTS. So
BTS, there you go.
Yep. What about you, Dave?
Oh man. Well, since the very quick turnaround of the last recording, I will say I finally got to
Woohoo, David.
I've actually gotten to watch a few classics lately. So I guess the one I'll mention, because I did not mention on the last episode, the thing that took me away for like an episode of voicemails was I was doing a play, Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. But anyways, not that anybody cares about that. But it did lead me to watch a movie I'd put off for years. And I've been told for years it is the Japanese version of King Lear, which is another Shakespeare play. And I finally
this is a good one.
I finally sat down and watched Akira Kurosawa's Ran. So if you know the basic plot of King Lear, which I'll be honest with you, I've never read or seen another version. So this is like my only version of King Lear I've ever seen, but I love it. So basically, a father, king, the head of 3 kingdoms is, getting into his older years. He wants to pass on his kingdoms to his children fairly, based on age. One son, the youngest son, is like, no, I'm not having it. You're giving all this power to the oldest son. He's an idiot. He's going to screw things up. The father takes offense, banishes that son. And then it just, without giving away the whole plot, because I don't want to do that to you. But I mean, this movie had me go through a range of emotions. Like, depending on what side of the fence you're looking at, King Lear in the movie, it's Hideo Toro, I think. I may be butchering that. I'm sorry. But the guy that the stand-in for King Lear, like, depending on what side of the fence you're looking at, he's either the worst kind of asshole that has what's coming to him because he's taken over kingdoms, ruined families, and then married off the daughters to his sons, or you takes great empathy for this guy, like, because his children are betraying him. He's going through all, like, this movie is tragedy.
Well, doesn't he also find all his sons inadequate to be a leader?
2 of them. The one, see, that's okay. So spoiler alert, but the youngest son who he had banished, turns out he was right. Like, ever since he gave power to his oldest son, the oldest son kept screwing him over in different ways, like getting him to sign over stuff, essentially banishing him from his kingdom, and then the other brothers following suit, and they have their power struggle. So, but it just so turns out in the beginning of the movie, the son you thought was the bad guy and was banished, he was right all along. And that's a great tragedy of this, is like, like he holds this weight of like, I treated you so wrong, and yet you were right the whole time. I should have listened to you. I should have heard you out. But
it's being told with a bunch of samurai.
But and there's great battles. Like I'm going into the drama.
It's missing out the best parts.
But my point, yes, it has great battles too. But I mean, it's like, what's so interesting is it fuses like this great human drama. Like, I got wrapped up in the emotion and the tragedy of it all, and on top of it, you get to see some really kick-ass battles of samurais and horses taking each other out. So if you've never seen this, like, classic movie that I just barely got to, check out Akira Kurosawa's Ran, or R-A-N if you have to type it in.
Speaking of classic movies, we have one next week, and it's probably the most crime related of our, I mean, this month is supposed to be crime movies. It's called The Heat Wave. So yeah, I mean, Prey doesn't really count, but we're gonna watch this movie called Wait Until Dark, which has a blind woman conned by a group of thieves who break into her house, and then she literally tries to survive the night while they're moving in and out of her rooms in her house, I don't know why they're stealing from her or what they're trying to steal, but it kind of actually could also feel like a bad romance movie, because technically she encountered the main guy earlier in her yeah. I don't know how.
Maybe we'll get into that next week, because I'm
let's crack it open next week. I'm about to spoil next week's movie.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, I'll just stop right there. I'm excited for it.
Me too.
We'll see. I learned something new. You learn something new every day, or like in the 90s, NBC used to have this banner with a star that's like, the more you know. Tonight we learned. Do you know that one, Jordan? Have you seen the rainbow? Yeah. When Jordan told her bathroom joke on Twitter, I stuck that rainbow up. You guys, if you want to know what I'm talking about,
you know.
The more you know. Go back like 2 episodes, because we included the bathroom story in one of our opening things. But other than that, tune in next week for this other movie. But tonight's lesson is laughter is consent. I'm going to have to include it in the episode title now. I'll force to do so because it's just too good.
There you go.
Yeah. If I call this episode Laughter like Judge Dredd says, laughter is consent, or laughter is consent, according to Judge Dredd. People are gonna have a field day, David.
I'm not touching that. I'm not fielding the Binge-Watchers Twitter feed or whatever after that one.
No, Jordan's cat handles all the tough questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's PR related, send it to Frankie at bwpodcast.com.
Yeah, I should go set up our HR account for Frank the cat. Like, that'd be great.
He'll get back to
I know your complaints to that.
Yeah, he'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours.
Nice, good policy.
Mm-hmm.